Good evening and welcome to NTD UK News. I'm Stuart Lees and here are today's top stories. The Transport Secretary announces those who are double jabbed will not need to quarantine returning from amber list countries. Record numbers tune in to watch England qualify for their first major tournament final since 1966. And while 60,000 enjoy the victory in Wembley Stadium, Olympic organisers meet to discuss banning spectators completely at the Games in Tokyo. From 19th of July, if you're double jabbed, you'll not be required to self-quarantine when returning to England from an amber list country. The Transport Secretary made the announcement today in Parliament. NTD's Neil Woodrow reports.
Last week, the government said it intended to ease restrictions for fully vaccinated travellers returning from amber list countries. Grant Shapps has now made that official.
From the 19th of July, UK residents who are fully vaccinated through the UK vaccine rollout will no longer have to self-isolate when they return to England. They'll still be required to take a test 3 days before returning, the pre-departure test demonstrating they're negative before they travel, and a PCR test on or before day 2, but they will no longer be required to take a day 8 test.
He went on to say that this means the requirements for green and amber list countries are the same. Under previous rules, those returning to Britain from top destinations, Spain, France, the United States and Italy, all had to self-isolate for up to 10 days. To qualify, a traveller must be double dose vaccinated more than 14 days prior to the date of departure. The industry is generally buoyed by the announcement. The chief executive of ABTA, the Travel Association, said it will be strongly welcomed by travellers and the industry. He told NTD, having to quarantine when returning from an amber list country has been a very significant barrier to travel for many people. It's especially welcome that this will come in time for the school summer holidays. The CEO of Airlines UK, the industry body representing UK-registered carriers, said this is a positive move towards the genuine reopening the sector has been looking for. The summer season essentially starts here. The new travel policy currently only applies to England, not Scotland, Wales or Northern Ireland. Shapps warned of expected delays during travel as a result of verifying COVID details.
Quite a lot of the checking will be done upstream, in other words, before you board the aircraft typically, or it could be a train or a boat, from your location that you're coming back from.
Meanwhile, the cost of getting a PCR test done has been a barrier for some wanting to travel. The chairman of the Transport Select Committee asked Shapps whether it could be made more affordable.
We know that for the last couple of months, those who have come back from amber destinations, only 0.4% of those have tested positive for COVID. So can we perhaps look at the testing costs? They are still a barrier for those travelling. It would be great if, rather than having an expensive PCR test, lateral flow could be used instead, and those who do test positive could then use a PCR.
Shapps, in his reply, said the rules covering this will be reviewed on July 31st.
Currently, the scientific evidence is that PCR tests, in addition to being a bit more accurate, are also the ones which can be quickly sequenced for the genome to look for variants as well. And his points about...
This is a positive development for double jab people looking to travel abroad. But bear in mind, any amber list destination could drop to the red list. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, London.
England beat Denmark 2-1 in the Euro 2020 semi-final last night. The team and its fans have their first major final in 55 years on Sunday. NTD's John Robson has the story.
England overcame Denmark on Wednesday to reach the European Championship final for the first time on Monday night. England and their long-suffering fans finally have the chance to add another trophy to the 1966 World Cup. During extra time, Captain Harry Kane's goal following a penalty miss ensured England's victory.
What a fantastic tournament it's been so far. Different type of win today. We had to dig deep against a very good Denmark side, and we got the job done. So of course, what an opportunity being at Wembley for the final of our first European Championship as a nation.
Kane says he's very proud to be the captain and the team showed great resilience.
These games are about character, they're about digging in, about belief, and we definitely have that as a squad, so this will just give us more going into Sunday now.
England manager Gareth Southgate hails his team for reaching their first major final in 55 years, but says opponents Italy will be the most difficult test.
So it's the biggest possible test we could have with a day less to recover, but we've got to prepare from now, and of course it's wonderful to have that opportunity to take them on.
It was not an easy win for England. Having swept past Ukraine 4-0 in the quarter-finals, they knew they faced a considerable step up. After 30 minutes, Denmark scored an incredible free kick, but just 9 minutes later, England got lucky when Denmark scored an own goal. Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his wife Carrie were at Wembley Stadium to witness the victory. He says the game was a total nail-biter and wishes England best of luck on Sunday.
Well, I thought it was a most extraordinary game, and obviously I don't think I've ever seen an England team play with such creativity and flair and versatility and just keep going like that.
Fans across England celebrated the victory. In central London, they danced, cheered and chanted, with riot police on guard. One fan at a South London venue sums up what the victory means.
My daughter was born in 2012, and you know what? It's a better feeling. It's a better feeling. Come on, England!
Joanne Robson, NTD News.
Broadcaster ITV says England's victory was watched by a peak of 27.6 million people, setting a new record for a football match shown on a single British channel. The figure, calculated across TV and smart devices, including phones and laptops, beat the 27.5 million who watched England's defeat by Croatia in the 2018 World Cup. Coverage of Sunday's final will be shared by BBC and ITV. And in other news, England fans are counting down to the Euro 2020 final on Sunday, anxiously and with over 50 years of expectation. NTD's Eddie Aiken has the story.
England's long-suffering fans finally have the chance of a major victory after waiting over half a century. For some of them, the wait was long, but worth it.
Listen, years and years and years of never getting this far, watching the game with my 9-year-old last night who thinks this is how England plays now and how we win. It's great for the future, isn't it?
Can't wait. It's good to be alive to actually see it, to be honest. So I never thought I would. So he's done a great job, Gareth, hasn't he?
One fan decides not to work on the Monday following the final, so that he can enjoy the game even more.
Like 100% not coming in on Monday. Yeah, well up for it, mate. I just feel like there's such a good buzz around, and England's never really created that. So, yeah, proper.
A petition calls for July 12th, the day after the final, to be a bank holiday if England wins. It has attracted over 140,000 signatures, meaning it must be discussed in Parliament. But the final is expected to be tough. Roberto Mancini's side are unbeaten in 33 matches and reached the final after a penalty shootout win over Spain. This is only England's second appearance in a major final, but will be Italy's 10th. But one of England's manager Gareth Southgate's most used mantras is for his team to make their own history and not feel past burdens. The approach has worked so far and might just work again. Eddie Aiken, NTD News.
A cross-party committee of MPs criticises the government for not doing enough about the Chinese regime's genocide against Uyghur Muslims. NTD's El Rhodes brings us the details.
In its report published Thursday, the Foreign Affairs Committee urged the government to respect Parliament's view that crimes against humanity and genocide are taking place in Xinjiang. Committee Chairman Tom Tugendhat says the evidence of severe human rights abuses and crimes against the Uyghur people is already overwhelming and indisputable. The 11 MPs that make up the committee say the government's actions so far do not match its rhetoric and have proved ineffective, so a much stronger response is needed. They say products made by forced labour are being sold in the UK and urge ministers to explore the possibility of banning all cotton imports linked to Xinjiang. The committee says ministers should not attend the Beijing Winter Olympics and should urge others not to do so. The government is also being urged to ban equipment manufactured by Hikvision and other Chinese companies whose security cameras are said to have been deployed in internment camps. The Foreign Office says the UK government has led international efforts to hold China to account for its human rights violations in Xinjiang. But a spokesman says the government will carefully consider the findings of the report. Earl Rhodes, NTD News.
The president of the International Olympic Committee arrived in Tokyo today to discuss the total banning of spectators from the upcoming Olympic Games. NTD's Eddie Aiken brings us this report.
Olympic organisers are poised to ban all spectators from the Games in Tokyo. That's according to Japan's Asahi newspaper on Thursday. Organisers were set to formally reach the decision on spectators during 5-day talks between key parties held later in the evening. The International Olympic Committee's head, Thomas Bach, arrived in Tokyo earlier in the day and was set to chair that meeting. It's the latest blow to the troubled Summer Games, already delayed by a year because of the pandemic and plagued by a series of setbacks including massive budget blowouts. Japan is also preparing to declare a state of emergency for Tokyo that will coincide with its hosting of the event. Medical experts have said for weeks that having no spectators at the Games would be the least risky option. There's been widespread public concern that the influx of thousands of athletes and officials could fuel a fresh wave of infections. Organisers have already banned overseas spectators and have for now set a cap on domestic viewers at 50% of capacity, up to 10,000 people. Anyone wanting to support athletes has been told to do so by clapping rather than cheering or singing. Eddie Aiken, NTD News.
As the British Olympic canoeing team arrive in Tokyo ahead of the Games, sports psychologists explain how a lack of spectators could affect the athletes' performance. NTD's John Robson brings us more.
Arriving in Tokyo ahead of the Games, the British Olympic canoeing team. Like other overseas athletes, they had to take 2 CCP virus tests in the days running up to their departure and another test as they arrive in Japan. The International Olympic Committee president is in Japan too. It's been a long wait.
What can I say? Finally, we are here. As you know, I arrived there this afternoon, and I was longing for this day for more than 1 year.
He says strict measurements are in place for a safe Olympics. This year, fans aren't likely to be watching. Sports psychologists say athletes will be preparing themselves for the change in atmosphere using different techniques.
I think athletes will prepare very differently for this. Some athletes, without the crowd there, they'll need to psych themselves up. They'll need to use various different strategies, using music potentially, speaking to their coach, using physical warm-ups. All of those types of things will get their heart racing and get them psyched up. But there'll be other athletes that actually might benefit from no crowd.
He says Japanese athletes may be impacted the most.
They're going to lose that home crowd and that home support, and we know that's going to be a huge advantage for them. So without having their home fans, their performances could suffer.
Sports psychologist Victor Thompson says that one of the main preparation techniques is to imagine the atmosphere so it feels familiar on the big day.
Imagine what it would be like. So imagine going into a stadium like normal, where it's busy, it's noisy. What would they do to prepare? How would they warm up? How would they be experiencing the noise, the other competitions going on, perhaps before they step out there to perform, and being okay with that? And then imagining, okay, well, what if the noise level, the atmosphere, the numbers of fans was much reduced? How would I do the same?
The Japanese government, the IOC president and Tokyo organisers are in discussion about the question of spectators. Joanne Robson, NTD News.
Still to come, a Chinese company created a prenatal test that has been harvesting genetic data for millions of pregnant women in Europe and worldwide. That and more when we return. Thank you for watching our daily news show on YouTube. You can also watch our other programming on channel 190 on Sky TV or on Freeview via channel box on channel 271. In the meantime though, please give this video a like and hit subscribe to our channel. Have a good day.